Hello and welcome to Learn, Do, Become Radio. I'm April Perry, and we are so excited today to talk about the psychology of stuff. Now, here at Learn, Do, Become, we help people who are overwhelmed by the details of life to create simple systems so they can do what matters most. A lot of times this looks like decluttering, clearing our spaces, creating a clean, organized, uplifting environment, being able to focus on the right projects, being able to feel excited about what's on your task list, having an open calendar, and really being able to feel good about all the things that you have to do, the place where you live, the place where you work, the way you run your family, the way you run your life. It's really fun, and I love it. But what I've noticed is that as we're trying to get rid of clutter, and as we're dealing with stuff, a lot of times we don't really know what's happening behind the scenes. And I'm not a psychologist, but I do work with people every single day who are trying to get rid of things that are causing overwhelm, things that are taking up every corner of their bedroom or bathroom or garage, or people who are paying for storage units, or people who are feeling like they just have so many things. Maybe it's their own, maybe it's from other family members. Maybe it's from family members who have passed on and then left them with all their stuff. It's a real thing. And so today I'm just going to talk about a few things that will be helpful. I have 5 listed that I'm going to cover today. That just goes into the psychology behind why we keep things, why it's hard to sort through them, why it's hard to part with them. And then I'm hopeful that as we discuss these things, then you're going to see where it is that maybe you could do a little shift in your thinking. And then what happens is when you shift your thinking, the stuff is easier to manage, donate, organize, deal with. Okay. So actually, as I'm recording this weekend, our family is getting ready to go to help my mother-in-law to sort just some things in a shop that they have behind their home. And we were talking the other day because there were 6 children in the family. Everyone's kind of left some stuff there. Some things have gathered over the years. She wasn't sure whose it was. And now as her children have gotten older and they have their own homes, it's time to start taking things out of that shop in the back. So we're all gathering together and having a family party, and we're going to organize it. But I called her the other day, and as we were talking about it, we just started talking about stuff. And I said, there often is a lot of emotional, there's a lot of emotional things going on behind the scenes. This isn't just about organizing. This could be emotional for several members of the family. And maybe let's just talk through a few things. And so we were just talking, just sharing some ideas. And then as we spoke, I thought, well, maybe this might make a good podcast episode because it might be helpful to other people. These are things that I didn't know years ago, and I wish I had. So I'm going to share them with you. All right, so first of all, sometimes when we keep things, it's because we feel that we are honoring our loved ones. I have a podcast episode with Julie Morgenstern, who wrote a book called Shed. It's like Shed Your Stuff, Change Your Life. She's written several awesome books, and I love her. But that's something that she really taught me, is that often when we hold on to something, maybe it's something a parent gave to you or a grandparent gave to you. Maybe it's something that you got from a prom date, or maybe it's something that a dear friend mailed to you. Maybe it was a birthday gift from a coworker that you really admire. When we receive gifts or hand-me-downs or inheritances from people who we love and honor, we often don't want to give those things away or throw them away even if they're broken, or do something like that with them, because we're afraid that we're throwing away the love and the respect and the memories related to that person. And as I was talking with my mother-in-law, Peggy, she said she has a friend who is paying for multiple storage units to hold her parents' things because she just feels so bad getting rid of them. But that's expensive, and it's kind of a weight. But it just represents how much love this person has for, their parents. I went through the same thing I talked about in the podcast I recorded with Julie, that I'd had like a purse. Well, I have several things that my mom had given me. I think in the podcast with her, I talked about this makeup bag my mom had given me that was so gross. And I kept it all the time and used it just because she gave it to me, even though I didn't like it. I've since changed to a different one. But same thing, I had this broken purse. The handle was totally broken. I couldn't even donate it because it wasn't good enough to donate. No one could use it. And I kept it for a long time, just sitting in my closet, because it was one of the last gifts my mom ever gave me. So the question that Julie asked me in that other podcast was, is that the best way to remember your loved one? And recognizing, you know what, you can take a really good picture so you can visit it in your notes app anytime you want. I use Evernote and I keep a notes app of things I love. You can take a photo. You could donate it to someone who really needs it if it's in good shape. There's a lot of things that you can do to process it, but recognizing that that's not the best way to honor a loved one by either taking on debt or expenses with a storage unit or taking up space in your home because you just want to show you love them. I don't think they would want that for you, but learning how to help wrap your mind around that and recognize that gifting it, donating it, throwing it away, recycling it, that's going to give you a lift and it's going to enable you to better serve the memory of that person. All right, second, a lot of times we don't want to clear clutter because we don't want to face regrets. So let's say you had, purchased art supplies and then you just never use them. Or you purchased a musical instrument thinking you were going to learn to play. Or in Julie Morgenstern's case, she talked about how she had all these cookbooks because she'd planned to cook and then never did. Sometimes when we look at things we bought for projects, I had all these leaves I bought. I had this idea to make these strings of fall leaves that would hang down our windows in our front room. So I bought the twine and I bought these hooks and I bought the leaves and I bought a glue gun and I had it all sitting in my closet ready to make these beautiful leaves that I'd seen on the internet. And there was not one day that whole season that I felt like getting out twine and leaves and hot gluing. It just wasn't going to happen. And then I thought, I don't even know if I like how this would look here anyway. So I decided I would just use the leaves as in a different way. We have like this little place you could put over our door. Use that. I put the hot glue gun in our craft area and move the hook somewhere else so we could use it for something else. I kind of disassembled that whole project. But when we say things to ourselves like, well, that was a waste of money. I should have done that. Why did I even think that would be fun? I don't even have the talent to make it look as cute as it does online. Whatever thoughts are going through your head. Sometimes it is hard to face it, and it's easier to take that bag of all that stuff and just keep it in your closet. But then every time you look at it, you think, I should probably go make that craft, right? And if you don't love it and it doesn't light you up and it's not lifting anyone and you can live without it, so much better to just clear that clutter, use what you can, donate what you need to, or maybe give the project to someone else who thinks that they would like to do it. But often we have regrets about things that we wish we had done. And in the Arise call that we had, and as I'm recording this, we just had an Arise call yesterday. It was so good. And as we were talking, we invited the group to stay on afterwards just to talk and ask any other questions. And one question that was asked is, what do you do about those feelings of regret? So we're talking about healthy mindsets and overcoming limiting beliefs. And they're asking, what do you do about regret? And oh man, I think all of us have them, right? We wish that we had known what we know now back when we were making decisions that have impacted our lives, maybe in not such great ways. I have a lot of things I wish I would have done differently, but the key point that I think we got to as a community is everyone was typing in their answers and sharing and contributing. The feeling that I got after that discussion was that regrets are a sign of growth and experience. All of us have to have experiences and learn as we go. But that's the beauty, is it's not where we are or where we've been. It's that direction that we're heading. And so recognizing you can change the thought patterns in your mind as you're clearing clutter, as you find that thing you spent $300 on that you never used, or you find these books that you'd wish you'd given to that person, or you find that, that kitchen appliance that you'd planned to make this awesome thing with and then you never did. It's okay. We are trying to give ourselves more of that grace rather than the guilt, right? And being able to look at those things and say, yep, that was at a time I thought that was going to work out. It didn't work out the way I'd planned. That's okay. What do we want to do moving forward? That feels so much healthier and happier. And then you find as you start giving those things away or getting them out of your life, you don't miss them. You feel a lift. You feel lighter. You feel like it's okay to make mistakes and that we're human. So just a thought there on the regrets. All right, number 3, sometimes the clutter is a buffer and it's safety. And this is something that I also learned in Julie's book because I hadn't even realized that. But sometimes when you just save all the toys that your children have used, all the papers that have come in, all the junk mail, all the flyers, all the even cardboard boxes that you think, I might want to reuse this. And you've got shoe boxes stacked and you've got all kinds of things. Sometimes we're creating a physical buffer when what we're really looking for is an emotional buffer. Maybe there's pain going on inside we don't want to talk about. Maybe there's been abuse. Maybe there's been financial ruin. Maybe there's been what you might term failure. And maybe there's really deep issues going on. And so by having stuff everywhere, it's almost like my brain is so overwhelmed with all this stuff that I can't even think beyond these walls, which is a good thing because I don't want to think about what's going on beyond these walls. So just something to ask yourself, am I creating a buffer? Because I don't want to deal with the thoughts that are going to be painful. And that's where maybe working with a therapist, doing some cognitive behavioral therapy. I always talk about my favorite books by Dr. Burns, Feeling Good, When Panic Attacks, his new one, Feeling Great. So good, helping you work through what are the distortions, what are the thoughts, how can we change our brains by actually learning how to control our thoughts. Super helpful. And then number 4, sometimes we just want to be really responsible and we want to be prepared. I think that typically if you look at all the physical clutter and you say, what does this represent that's good about me? What I see so often is that people want to be reliable. And if someone's going to need another pair of scissors, they want to make sure they've got 12. And if someone might need that one piece of information on that random flyer that someone dropped off at your door, you want to be able to have that for them. Now, will you be able to find it? Probably not, but at least you'll have it. At least it's there. What if 7 people came to your house and they all needed socks? If you have extra socks, you're going to be able to help them. What if a disaster happened and everyone's going to need a bunch of newspapers for some reason to wrap things up or to, pad, jackets, or I don't know. I mean, there's all these things that happen where you think, well, I want to be prepared. I was really actually touched by my husband's story. His grandparents passed away several years ago, and as they were cleaning out their home, they found so many things that they had saved in case of a disaster. They'd lived through the Depression. They knew what it was like not to have resources, so they saved. They had all kinds of pairs of jeans, they had money kind of, throughout the home. They had stacks and stacks and stacks and stacks all throughout the house because they wanted to be prepared in case a disaster came, which I think disaster preparedness is definitely important. But sometimes we might take it beyond to the point where now we don't have a space to live. Now I can't even sleep in my bed because there's stuff all over it. Now I can't even get into my bathroom or take a shower because there's just stuff everywhere. So being able to say, what would make sense to make sure I'm prepared enough in case of a disaster, that we would have some food and water and emergency kits, some clothing. How do we have maybe some money stored or some things that would be helpful and make sense? But making sure that we're not living our whole life prepared for everything to fall apart. And obviously you've got to figure out where that line is. But when I see people who are literally dying in clutter, they're just surrounded by it. They're not living anymore because they're just surrounded by it. And you think, okay, maybe we need to make a little shift because we want to live. All right, number 5. I think often we are trying to be a protector. So I'm going to try to articulate this as well as I can. I'm sure someone else has articulated it much more eloquently. But this is the idea. Sometimes when something is given to us and it's now in our care, we want to protect it, and we don't want to let either the person down who gave it to us, or we don't want to let that thing down. It's kind of a weird little psychological thing I've noticed. I've noticed it myself too, where perhaps if someone else has let you down in your life, you think, well, I'm not ever going to let someone down the way I've been let down. So I'm going to be the protector. You give me something, I'm going to protect it. I'm going to hold it. I'm going to keep it in my room. I'm going to keep it in my bathroom drawer. I'm going to keep it in my kitchen. I'm going to be the protector. And I'm going to make sure that this item never gets lost or ruined or discarded or destroyed, maybe the way that I was. I think sometimes this happens with food, where you think, like, maybe I will put my emotions into food because food will always be there for me. Back when I was in 7th grade, I was going through a kind of a tricky time. I had gained quite a bit of weight, and I didn't really feel like I was fitting in socially. I had braces, my body was changing, my hair was changing. That was back in the day when we had the curled bangs, and my bangs didn't curl as well as everyone else's did. Oh man, and I just felt awkward. I felt chubby. I felt like I wasn't really as valuable as other people. And I just felt like I was that frumpy girl going to 7th grade. And on the weekends, and most nights, most school nights, I wasn't involved in a lot of activities at that point. And I haven't really reflected on this period of my life as much as I probably need to. I think I still need to process some things. But most nights and pretty much every weekend, I would sit in my room. I had this little 13-inch portable TV. It had a little antenna, so I got, 5 channels or something. And I would watch TV and I would just eat. And I would eat salads. I would eat fruit. I'd eat bagels. I would eat granola bars. I'd just eat kind of whatever we had around the house. But I would eat a lot, and I would kind of eat constantly. And I think what I was doing is I was hiding in my room with food that would never let me down. And my room, I wouldn't say it was really dirty. It was fine, but there was still a lot of stuff and clutter, and I didn't know how to declutter back then. But it was my little place where I felt like I could be safe. And I remember my dad would always come knock on my door and say something like, "Hey, April, do you want to go on a walk?" Or, "Hey, April, do you want to come do something with me?" And I remember I would hear, my room was at the front of the house, and there was a hardwood floor in the living room, and my dad had to walk across the hardwood floor to get to my room. And whenever I would hear his footsteps coming towards me during that time, I remember thinking, oh, why is he coming in here? Why is he bothering me? And it wasn't I didn't love my dad. I loved my dad. He was awesome. But I didn't want him seeing me like that. I think that's what it was. I didn't want him to open that door and see his rejected, chubby daughter watching TV and eating. And I mean, sorry, I haven't even thought about that till right now. I want him to feel proud of me. I want to feel proud of myself. But I would just sit there and I would just kind of not process what was going on. And I would just use food as that protector. So, I think sometimes we either turn to our stuff to protect us and to form that buffer, like I was talking about, or we consider ourselves the protector of the stuff. And there's usually something deeper going on. There's something in how we're looking at our value. There's something in how we're thinking about our relationships and how we're thinking about our future. And when you can actually start getting to the root of those things, it's pretty amazing how then the stuff can be cleaned. The food becomes a beautiful resource to nourish you and help your body feel excited and happy and healthy. You don't drown your sorrows in social media or binge watching shows or drugs or alcohol. And you start feeling like it's okay that you're human, and it's okay that you're struggling, and it's okay if maybe there's some stuff going on that's really not fun right now. But you can start feeling that lift and that light. So that's all I'm going to cover today. But the idea is that if we can start thinking about why we're keeping the stuff, why we're in these ruts, why we're participating in some behaviors that aren't serving us, we can get to the root of it and figure out what's really going on in our heads. Then we put ourselves in a situation where we can say, okay, well, now let's solve that. And I love that quote from Mr. Rogers that says, if you can mention it, you can manage it. I think our society needs to be better at mentioning the things that are hard. I found just in our Arise membership, when we can talk about the things that are actually going on and the way we're thinking, then everyone rallies around you and says, oh, wait, hang on a second. That's not as bad as you think. You're actually really normal. Here's something that might help. And then you start feeling like you can actually take a breath and you don't have to pretend like everything's okay. But you also don't then feel like life is a series of ups and downs. It's more like life is life. And it's a series of opportunities where we're growing, we're trying, we're learning from experience, we're making changes, and it becomes something that feels exciting and beautiful. All right, I'm going to close up now. I'm sending my love. The fact that you're listening to this shows that this is obviously something that's important to you. And if it's important to you, then I have total confidence that you're going to be able to take some steps that can help you to alleviate any burden you might be feeling. If you're feeling weighed down or heavy or frustrated right now, I want you to know there is hope and light and potential available for you. Those of you who are brand new, please come to learndobecome.com/connect. If you're brand new to our STEP program, Steps to Everyday Productivity, and you want to build a command central, that's going to change your life. Go to that Connect page, click on the free class. If you want to be part of the membership where you get to work with me and Eric and our amazing community, on that Connect page, you can take your personal assessment and you can come on in to the Arise program next time we open the membership. If you are wanting more podcasts, subscribe, Learn, Do, Become Radio. If you want to watch videos, subscribe to our YouTube channel and make sure you come into the free Facebook group as well. That's all linked on the Connect page. learndobecome.com/connect. We are so grateful you're here. I hope that you can recognize how much value each one of us brings to the world. And it's not a matter of becoming better than we were even, or better than someone else. I think it's a matter of finding more joy, finding more connection, finding more life, and recognizing that every single stage of our life is going to serve us as we learn from it and as we grow. Love you so much. Have a great day.